10 symptoms of a bad EGR valve and how it can affect your engine over time. Your car may still start, it may still drive, it may still feel mostly normal, but something is off. The engine is not as smooth, fuel economy is not what it used to be, and sometimes you hear a strange sound, feel hesitation, or notice the car just doesn't respond the same way anymore. That is what makes EGR valve problems tricky. They usually do not begin with a dramatic failure. They begin with small changes, easy to ignore, easy to misread. But over time, those small changes turn into drivability problems, higher emissions, and wasted fuel. The EGR valve, or exhaust gas recirculation valve, has one important job. It sends a controlled amount of exhaust gas back into the engine that helps lower combustion temperature and reduce harmful emissions. But when the valve gets stuck, clogged, or stops responding properly, that balance is lost. Too much exhaust gas can enter the engine, or not enough. And once that happens, combustion is no longer controlled the way it should be. In this video, I'll show you 10 common symptoms of a bad EGR valve. We'll start with the early warning signs, then move into the more noticeable and more expensive consequences. And stay until the end, because one of the last symptoms on this list can quietly lead to bigger engine problems if you keep ignoring it. So before you replace random parts, let's break it down step by step. Symptom number 1, poor fuel economy. This is often one of the first signs people notice without realizing what is causing it. If the EGR valve is stuck open, too much exhaust gas enters the engine. That reduces combustion efficiency. And when combustion becomes less efficient, the engine needs more fuel to make the same power. At first, you may only notice that the fuel gauge drops a little faster than usual, but over time the difference becomes obvious. More trips to the gas station, less distance from a full tank, and no clear reason why. Symptom number 2, loss of engine performance. When the EGR valve is not working properly, the engine does not get the balance it needs. If the valve is stuck open, too much exhaust gas enters. If it is stuck closed, combustion temperatures rise higher than they should. Either way, performance suffers. The car may feel weaker, slower, less willing to accelerate. You press the gas pedal, but the engine just does not feel as responsive as before. It still runs, but it no longer feels healthy. Symptom number 3, engine knocking or pinging. This usually happens when the EGR valve is stuck closed. Without enough exhaust gas recirculation, combustion temperatures increase. That can cause the fuel to ignite too early. And that early ignition creates a knocking or pinging sound. You may hear it more clearly at light throttle or lower RPM. It may sound small at first, but it is not a sound you want to ignore, because prolonged knocking can put real stress on engine components. Symptom number 4, rough idle. At idle, the engine needs a very stable mixture to run smoothly. If the EGR valve is stuck open, it may allow exhaust gas in when it should not. That disrupts combustion, and the result is often a rough, uneven idle. The engine may shake, RPM may fluctuate, the car may feel unstable while sitting still. Sometimes it feels like the engine is trying to recover every few seconds. That roughness is often one of the clearest signs that something is out of balance. Symptom number 5, engine stalling. This is a more serious version of the rough idle problem. If the EGR valve is letting in too much exhaust gas, especially at idle, the engine may not be able to maintain combustion. And when that happens, it stalls. Sometimes it starts again easily, sometimes it happens repeatedly. And if it keeps happening, it becomes more than just annoying. It becomes a reliability problem, because once the engine starts stalling regularly, you cannot trust the car the way you used to. Symptom number 6, strong fuel smell or unusual exhaust smell. When combustion is not efficient, some fuel may not burn the way it should. That can create a stronger fuel smell or an unusual exhaust odor. You may notice it outside the car, sometimes near the rear, sometimes after idling. This symptom by itself does not always point directly to the EGR valve, but when it appears together with rough idle, poor mileage, or hesitation, it becomes a much stronger clue. Symptom number 7, check engine light. This is one of the most obvious warning signs. If the EGR valve gets stuck, responds slowly, or stops operating the way the system expects, your car may set a fault code and turn on the check engine light. But here is the important part. The light alone does not prove the EGR valve is bad. It simply means the system detected a problem. That is why scanning the vehicle matters. Because the code helps narrow things down instead of leaving you guessing. Symptom number 8, higher emissions. The EGR system exists mainly to help control emissions, so when it stops working properly, emissions usually go up. You may not feel this directly while driving, but the effect is still there. And if your vehicle has to pass an emissions inspection, this can become a real issue. A stuck closed EGR valve in particular can raise combustion temperatures and increase harmful emissions. So even if the car still feels drivable, the system may already be failing its main job. Symptom number 9, acceleration hesitation. You press the gas pedal. The car responds, but not smoothly. There is a pause, a delay, or a slightly awkward jump in power. That hesitation happens because the engine is not getting the combustion balance it expects. Sometimes it feels small. Sometimes it becomes more obvious during city driving, when pulling away from a stop, or when trying to accelerate gently. This kind of symptom often gets blamed on other parts first, but the EGR valve can absolutely be part of the problem. Symptom number 10, carbon buildup and long-term performance problems. This is the symptom many people do not notice early enough. A bad EGR valve, especially one with carbon buildup, often means the system has already been running dirty for a while. And over time, carbon deposits can build up in the intake path and related components. That buildup restricts flow, reduces efficiency, and can make drivability problems worse. So the real danger is not always what the EGR valve is doing today. Sometimes the bigger issue is what it has been causing slowly over time. Now here is something important. EGR valve symptoms do not always appear one by one. Often they show up in combinations. For example, rough idle and hesitation, poor fuel economy and a check engine light, or knocking and weak performance. That combination matters because one symptom alone can sometimes point to many different problems. But when several of these show up together, the EGR valve becomes much more likely. So what should you do first? Start with the pattern. Ask yourself, is the idle rough? Has fuel economy dropped? Does the engine hesitate? Is there knocking? Did the check engine light come on? Those clues help a lot. In many cases, a dirty EGR valve can be cleaned, and that may solve the problem if carbon buildup is the main issue. But if the valve is electrically faulty, mechanically stuck, or the control side has failed, cleaning may not be enough. That is why diagnosis matters. So let's quickly recap. A bad EGR valve may cause poor fuel economy, loss of engine performance, engine knocking, rough idle, engine stalling, fuel smell, a check engine light, higher emissions, acceleration hesitation, and carbon buildup over time. Some of these symptoms start small. Some feel serious right away, and some quietly get worse until the engine no longer runs the way it should. That is why this problem should not be ignored for too long, because once combustion temperature and airflow balance start going wrong, performance, efficiency, and emissions all begin to suffer. And now I want to hear from you. What symptom did your car show first? Was it rough idle, poor mileage, knocking, hesitation, or a check engine light? Comment below with the exact symptom you noticed first. And if enough people mention the same issue, I'll make the next video on that exact problem.